This is an abandoned summer resort. This place was actually part of my Abandoned from Above series, where I showed its history through a series of drone shots. I visited here with two of my friends in the spring of 2019 to shoot that, and we gathered additional footage and a lot of photos that I wanted to show, specifically what it looks like inside of here. It was a chilly day when we went. There was still ice thawing on the lake, and it was completely quiet. It was definitely a creepy explore, especially knowing this used to be a pretty busy social spot back in the day, so it's easy to let your mind wander at a place like this. Originally called the Grand View Hotel, this place became famous during the height of what's called the resort era of the early 1900s. There were a lot of resorts spread out throughout New England, and this region specifically was called the Catskills of Connecticut. Until its closing, the resort was one of the last remaining facilities from that era. In 1958, it was purchased by a new owner and turned into a premier music venue and bed and breakfast. But in 2000, it officially closed due to smaller attendance and less bookings, and it was pretty much left the same as the day it closed. The family had plans to reopen, but that never happened, and since 2013, it's been on sale. Let me break down the buildings on this property, and then we'll head into some of them. We have the main dining hall, ballroom, kitchen, and rec room in this building here. There are also some offices and additional rooms attached. This was actually the first building we went into. We were most excited about this one because it was the biggest on the property, and I had seen some photos of it online beforehand.
Oh my god.
Those couches are in good shape.
It's completely caved in right there.
This is where long tables would have been set up for dinner for all of the guests. It would also be open for dancing later in the night. When we got in here, obviously there were clothes and documents everywhere across the floor. It was a complete mess in there. So we did spend a lot of time in this room just kind of sifting through everything that was left behind and strewn around. At the back of this dining hall was a rec room and kitchen. This shot is heading back there. You can see part of the kitchen is collapsed in on the right. There's also a lot of old music equipment that was used during the dinners and events. In the very back of this building is the rec room. It's so quiet. Really, the only noticeable thing in here is the massive pool table.
Over that board.
Whoa.
This is all concrete.
What'd you find?
I found the thermostat. Do you want me to turn the heat up? It's on 60 right now, but you know I can.
Let's
really
put it up a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's on 85 now.
Chilly. Okay.
It's really gonna warm up in here.
It's just a little bit of a fixer-upper, I think. There are ceilings and roofs collapsed throughout the property, so not everything was accessible. This gives you a good idea, though. So we couldn't even get to the second floor. You can see this is my friend Eric looking in right now, and you can see the door on the upper right just kind of swinging open. Next, we went to one of the main guest houses next door to the main building. Cameron and I scouted it a bit, and I flew the drone before we headed in. This is a shot of Eric and I trying to head into the back of the building, but we couldn't get in because one of the floors had collapsed in. So instead, we got in through the front, and we could only go upstairs from here. So it was definitely a little bit sketchy. The far end of this building was heavily damaged by a fire from back in 2014, which you can see in this drone shot here. The strangest part of this Explorer was definitely this building. The guest rooms were still made up, the beds were still made, dressers were closed against the walls, and the curtains were still hanging despite most of the windows being broken. The rest of the guest buildings are across a small field, and they were pretty much inaccessible, at least when we visited. They look like 3 large cabins, all supported on stilts because they're built on a hill. A tree during a storm had fallen into one of them and just racked the whole roof hard, and it collapsed inwards along with one of the walls. I went into the first one and snapped a photo down the main hall. The floors were pretty soft, so I didn't go much further, but it was basically the same state as the first building we went into. There was just trash kind of thrown around. Another notable part of this resort is the remains of the main guest building, which is up on a hill when you first walk in. You can't even go inside of it because it's completely collapsed into itself. I got a drone shot of it. I couldn't get too close because there were too many trees, but at least on the ground, when you walk up, it's, you know, you see part of the front porch, and then the rest of it is just splinters, beams, and doors sticking out of every which way.
They're nature photographers. I'm a naked photographer.
So that about wraps it up for kind of the behind the scenes of how we shot this video and how we explored the property. So thanks for watching, and definitely reach out if you have any questions. I also have more photos from here on my Instagram, which you can see the link here. So thank you again.